Welcome, everyone. On behalf of the ADR section of the Florida Bar, I welcome you to the Health and Wellness series, Be Well, Stay Well. My name is Patrick Russell. I am the chair for the Health and Wellness Committee and the chair-elect for the ADR section of the Florida Bar. When I'm not doing this important work, I'm also a trial lawyer and a certified mediator in the Miami office for Lydecker Diaz. The Health and Wellness series is a project that we have been working on for more than 2 years. Today's presentation, Happiness for Lawyers Guaranteed, or Your Misery Back, is our 6th and final webinar for the series. We have been very pleased and honored to have been able to bring together 6 compelling and thoughtful webinars that address health and wellness from different perspectives. We want to thank our participating sponsors who have made a large portion of this program possible, which includes the University of Miami and the Legal Services of Greater Miami. All of our panel members are experts in their own right and have wonderful tips, insights, and ideas to share with you. More now than ever, health and wellness is an important issue for all lawyers and one that cannot be ignored. To begin our program, we would like to first share with you an introductory video from our Florida Bar President, Dory Foster Morales.
Hi, I'm Dory Foster Morales, President of the Florida Bar. I'm so thrilled to have been invited by Oscar Sanchez as chair and Patrick Russell as vice chair of the ADR section to give brief introductions to this important webinar series, Be Well, Stay Well. Thank you, Oscar and Patrick. I do applaud the ADR section for shining a light on health and wellness, especially during this new and stressful time when all of us are still adjusting to the new normal as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. As a practicing lawyer, wife, and mother, and small firm owner, I'm extremely passionate about health and wellness in the legal profession because I understand the stresses of balancing a career, our clients' needs, along with all our other personal responsibilities for family and friends. Before the pandemic, we knew the life of a lawyer was fraught with emotional difficulties. In 2016, the ABA and the Hazelton Betty Ford Foundation published their study of nearly 13,000 lawyers. The study found that approximately 28%, 19%, and 23% are struggling with some level of depression, anxiety, and stress, respectively. And when this pandemic was added into the mix, it heightened those issues. Life became even more complicated. The depression, anxiety, and stress that lawyers are already feeling may be intensified. I want all of my fellow lawyers and members of the Florida Bar to know they are not alone. It's okay to open up, it's okay to be imperfect, and it's okay to get help. Please take advantage of the many pandemic resources on the Bar's website, especially the Florida Lawyers Helpline, 1-833-FL1-WELL. This is a 24/7 free and confidential member benefit, which provides counseling and referral for up to 3 free therapy sessions with a licensed mental health counselor. Remember that your professional success includes your happiness and your well-being. Thank you.
At this time, it is my pleasure to introduce Ariel Capuano, who will start off today's presentation with a very special practice. As a background, Ariel is a partner attorney and mediator at Levinson and Capuano, focusing her practice on family law, business law, and mediation. Ariel also currently serves as the chair of the board of directors for Voices for Children of Broward County, and as a volunteer guardian ad litem, helping to effectuate positive change in the lives of thousands of local at-risk children. As a certified yoga teacher and wellness professional, Ariel strives to integrate mindfulness principles into the practice of law and mediation. As a result of her commitment to the legal profession and her community, Ariel has been rated AV preeminent by Martindale-Hubbell and rated by Super Lawyers magazine. Ariel, show us what you have.
Thank you, Patrick, and thank you to my co-panelist Mark and to the team at the ADR section of the Florida Bar. And thanks to everybody who's here today, because you're investing in yourself and you're investing in your community just by learning some more tools for your wellness toolkit. So in just a few minutes, Mark's going to be sharing some information and some practical tools to help decrease stress and increase happiness. But first, I'm going to share with you a very simple but powerful tool for your wellness toolkit. And this tool can be used in your neutral practice, in your law practice, or really in any aspect of your life. And this tool will help you stay calm in a stressful situation and in turn can help you encourage other people to do the same. So I'm going to be teaching you a pranayama practice. What is pranayama? So pranayama is one of the 8 limbs of yoga and directly translates to energy control. So this is our breath practice. That's all it is. We're going to be breathing. So what I'm teaching you today is so effective that it's utilized by the US Navy and was recently endorsed by Justice Alan Lawson. I call this breath practice 16 seconds to peace, but it's also known as box breathing or 4-4-4 breathing. So some of the many benefits of a breath practice include relaxation, regulation of the nervous system, less reactivity, and increased clarity and focus. This breath practice takes us out of our sympathetic nervous system and into the parasympathetic nervous system, where we're able to make better, more rational, and informed decisions. So obviously we want clients and attorneys making decisions from the parasympathetic nervous system. However, parties can often find themselves in the sympathetic nervous system, and that's the fight or flight mentality that they often experience when they're at war or in the battle of litigation. So by learning to resource ourselves amid stress and chaos, we can not only empower ourselves with the tools to maintain equanimity in a challenging moment, but we can also encourage other people around us to do the same. And I think that that will lead to a more effective neutral practice and a more effective litigation practice, whatever you do as an attorney or a neutral. So you may have noticed this past year that fear and panic are contagious, but so is calm. And that's why I'm sharing with you this breath practice today. So how can you use this pranayama practice as a mindfulness tool in your wellness toolbox? Well, you can start every single day with a breathing exercise, just a couple minutes, and that sets a peaceful tone for the day. You could also use a breathing technique for a calming effect as needed. You can literally take a breather if a party is nervous before court, if tensions escalate in a mediation conference, or if frustrations mount as you're really progressing through the mediation session and you don't want an impasse. You can literally take a breather. And then hopefully the emotions can pass like a storm and then the parties can feel heard and then the issue's resolved from there. So I'm going to be teaching you one pranayama technique, the 16 seconds to peace. But if you find this helpful, you can research other pranayama breathing techniques, or you can reach out to me for more information and I'll share what I've learned. So let's try this. I'm going to be counting to 4 as you inhale. And then you're going to hold your breath for 4, exhale to the count of 4, and stay empty to the count of 4. We'll do this a couple times. And if you practice this breath over time, you can gradually increase the count as your lung capacity improves. So let's get started. Start by finding a comfortable seat. You can sit up straight, lower your shoulders from your ears, and release any tension that's in your face. If you're comfortable, please soften or close your eyes. So let's take a couple breaths just to bring our awareness to our breath. So big inhale through your nose, exhale through your mouth. Let's do that again. Inhale through your nose, exhale through your mouth. And let's get started. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold it. 2, 3, 4. Exhale. 2, 3, 4. Stay empty. 2, 3, 4. Again, inhale. 2, 3, 4. Hold it. 2, 3, 4. Exhale. 2, 3, 4. Stay empty. 2, 3, 4. Again, inhale. Hold it. Exhale. Stay empty. And one more time, inhale. Hold it. And exhale. When you're ready, you can resume your natural flow of breath and gently open your eyes. Notice how you feel. And know that you can cultivate and share this piece at any time in just a couple minutes. I hope this was helpful. I'll turn it back over to Patrick.
Thank you, Ariel. Hopefully I'm not red from all that breathing. All right, so now I'd like to introduce our speaker, Mark Eiglarsh. It is a great pleasure for me to introduce Mark. He is an AV-rated attorney who has been litigating in state and federal courts for over 28 years. He zealously represents clients charged with criminal offenses, as well as those with personal injury and wrongful death matters. He is a successful trial lawyer, an adjunct law professor, devoted husband, and proud father of 3 teenagers, and a passionate pickleball player. Mark has made it his mission to help the community, which has been plagued with low satisfaction levels, extreme stress, and mental health issues for quite some time. You may recognize Mark from his many local and national television appearances. Let's take a look at a few.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Mark Eiglarsh, sitting in for my dear friend, Dr. Drew. Thank you so much for letting me keep the chair warm for you tonight.
Mark, why are you sleeping through Kelly's court? I really I want to know.
Is it my turn? Thank you, Kimberly. The sheer length of her arguments affords me the opportunity to catch up on some needed rest. But I wouldn't want the burden of proof lowered to get the guy who killed my son. The minute we lower the burden of proof for Zimmerman, for Casey Anthony, for OJ, whoever else you think might have gotten away with it, then when you're arrested, that burden of proof is lowered and we all suffer.
Well, Mark makes an excellent point here.
There was a poll recently of people who hate people, and apparently Casey Anthony was on the list of the most hated person in the United States, more hated than Sandusky and Bernie Madoff.
You think shit?
And by the way, you know who was number 2? This surprised me. Kim Kardashian? For real, because they can't keep up with her.
Right.
That's the problem.
I think I have an answer. I think it's in Mark's studio. Can you please cut to Mark's studio? Zero in on his studio for me, please. Mark, please give me full screen. There. Mark, the phone.
Yes, but
What's happening? What have you done?
I think it's ego that they chose not to bring the Florida Department of Law Enforcement in or the FBI, and I would tell them your ego's not your amigo.
Did you defend her? I mean, you've already taken the other.
Why am I on the hot seat here?
Because you said that you would not defend the
I'm
matter.
going to take a pass on this one, too.
You're passing on everything.
I like the audience clapping, so I'm going to take a pass on this one.
Please welcome Mark Eiglarsh.
Thank you very much, Patrick, for that kind and warm introduction that I totally wrote. It truly is an honor to be here to share with you my experience and hope that you get something from it, and hopefully you can raise your happiness levels. Now, every time I see that media montage, I have 2 primary thoughts. Number 1, wow, I love wearing makeup. And number 2, just how happy I am. You see, that's my purpose. I love being able to help the public understand legal issues in the most entertaining way. That's my dharma. That's what I love to do. I'm in the flow. But what I noticed was when I wasn't on screen, when I wasn't doing those cool experiences, I wasn't very happy at times. In fact, in the past, there were times I was downright miserable. You see, like many of you, I'm a lawyer, not the easiest profession at times. When I went to court, my happiness, I learned, was contingent upon what happened outside of me. So if the judge ruled in my way and treated me nicely, great, I was happy. If the prosecutor gave me the plea offer that I wanted, joy. If the jury gave me the outcome I wanted, you wanted to be around me. But conversely, I wasn't very happy. I didn't like that roller coaster of emotions. I even noticed that my clients, some of who were in custody, they were happier than I was. Understand this, my fellow lawyers. They were physically in custody. They were physically imprisoned. Yet I was emotionally imprisoned. And I was the one who put myself there. So there were times where I would get what I want. I'd leave court, and then something outside of me would happen. Like, I don't know, get cut off in traffic. And then instead of just letting them go and having peace like I do today and wishing them well, oh no, it was on. How dare you do that to me, I thought. So I would surrender leadership of myself to that person for about a mile, and so I can catch up to them and give them what I thought that they needed. Now, I'd like to tell you that whenever I reacted that way, my precious offspring were not in the vehicle with me, but that isn't really the case. I needed to do better, but I didn't. My wife, my dearest friend, 20 years of marriage we just celebrated, always just wonderful, except when it wasn't. You see, we went through challenges like any relationship. Our first pregnancy, our biggest fear was that we'd show up at the doctor's appointment and the doctor would screw up and tell us the sex of the baby. We didn't want to know. And by that, I mean, my wife said, we should be surprised. I'm like, okay, sure. Not that really there is a surprise. It's either a boy or a girl. He's not going to yell, you got a llama. But anyway, I said, sure, honey, whatever you want. Something far worse happened at the doctor appointment. See, we first listened to the heartbeat. We were all just filled with elation. That was the first time we had heard the heartbeat. And then the doctor his tone completely changed as he showed us our baby's skull. And he said, you see the brain, your child's brain? It's growing outside of the skull. And he showed us that. He explained that our son had suffered a rare neurological tube disorder known as encephalocele. It affects a fraction of maybe 1% of all babies, and that there were no options. Here we were halfway through our pregnancy. I had been kissing my wife's belly every single night, and now our baby was not going to live outside of the womb. So we were forced to terminate our first pregnancy. There was no joy in our household, and I had no tools to try to restore either one of us, especially myself, to happiness. I was just at the whim of whatever happened around me. So what do? I have no tools, no spiritual tools at the time. What do? I go to what I know. I brought home something to that household, our household, that we did not need. I brought home a yellow lab. We didn't need a puppy. We had just finished renovating our home, but I can tell you, at least for 24 hours, we had joy, we had love. We had somewhere to take all that love that we had for that child, our son. We put it on this puppy named Star with 2 R's because 1 R was not enough for my wife. And Star was wonderful. Star served as our child for a period of time. And by the way, I know what you're thinking. I know what you're thinking. The answer is no, my fellow lawyers. I am not, nor have I ever been, the 40-year-old virgin. So Star was a wonderful companion for both of us. And I remember one morning I was looking out through our sliding glass door as I was eating my breakfast, and I looked down and I noticed that Star had gotten a softball. I guess it was the neighbors who had inadvertently thrown it over our fence. They were playing in their backyard. So she was gnawing at this softball, gnawing, and she seemed so happy. She was so passionate about what she was doing. And I thought to myself, because this was a Monday, Mondays are the worst for me, all that fear and anxiety. I looked over and I said, I wish I was half as happy as Star. We should all be as happy as dogs. Until later that day, my wife said, we got to take the dog in. I said, what are you talking about? She said, there's something wrong with her. I said, honey, I went running with her that morning. There's nothing wrong with the dog. Took her in reluctantly, and the doctor, the vet, said, I'm glad you brought her in. She needs immediate surgery. Apparently, she had consumed the leather portion of the softball, and she was trying to get it out of her, but she couldn't digest it. So it kept rubbing back and forth. I will never forget to this day the noise that my wife made when she spoke to the doctor and said that Star didn't make it through the surgery. She died. So we were back at square one again. There was no happiness. There was no joy. I had no tools. And people say, so that was probably your lowest point, right? That's when you got on this flaky spiritual path, right, Mark? Like, no. No, I'd heard people talk about happiness the same way I'm talking about it today with you, and most of you won't listen. You're not ready. I wasn't ready. The lowest point for me was when I was pulling out of a gas station in Hollywood where I live with my family. And it was one of those days where maybe I didn't get the ruling I wanted in court. Maybe, the jury didn't rule my way, whatever it was. I was cantankerous. I was nasty. I kept my head down. I didn't want to talk to anybody. And some woman was gesturing. The thing, she's yelling, the thing. She's pointing at my car. And I just kept driving towards the exit. I didn't want to be bothered. And finally, her gestures became so pronounced and her voice became so loud that reluctantly I stopped my vehicle and I said, "What?" She said, the thing. The thing was the pump was still in my tank as I drove away. I stopped my vehicle, and instead of looking at her and thanking her profusely, again, this is my lowest point, so I don't endorse this behavior. I'm certainly not proud of it. I looked at her and I said, "You couldn't have told me sooner?" That was it. That was it. My behavior had become intolerable to me. I needed to do better. My family at the time, and this is them at the time, now they're teenagers and they're telling me to get the hell out of the room. But at the time, they deserved better. They deserved a father who wasn't on a roller coaster ride of emotions. That's not how I wanted to feel. And my angel deserved better. And by angel, I'm referring to our new dog, Angel, the sweetest golden doodle ever, who's actually still with us. So I needed to do better. So what do? I don't know. The Ariel wasn't around at the time for me. The Florida bar wasn't around to help me with these things. It was perceived as a weakness to talk about how we can be happier. And so what did I do? If there was a book that had happiness in the title, I read it. If there was a seminar that had happiness, I was there. If there was any speaker anywhere, in state, out of state, I went. So here's me at the Deepak Chopra Wellness Center in Carlsbad, California. From that place, I took wonderful things like a meditation practice that I've had for over 10 years. I left some things that didn't work for me, like their colon cleanses, also known as a spiritual enema, to allegedly rid my body of the toxins it didn't need. Left me feeling rather confused. No thank you, deep pockets. But we also did some really cool things. When I say we, my wife was on her own individual spiritual journey, but we did some things together. She told me about this place out west where we can go and study these meditative practices and other really cool spiritual things. And she said also they have this program where you could study bees. I'm like, okay, sure, honey. And we studied bees and I learned a lot. It was really cool. People ask me though, I mean, there must have been limits, right? And there were. There were things that I absolutely wouldn't do. I remember my wife said to me once, she said, true story, she said, "We're going to go out to this place in Phoenix. They have all these cool things. They also will allow you to paint on horses." And I'm thinking, wait, I'm picturing myself steadying myself on trigger, trying to paint. And she said, "No. You paint on the horses. The horses are the canvases," as if somehow that made this crazy idea any better. And I looked at her. I remember the day I looked at her in the eye and said, "Honey, I will never go to a place like that. I'm not going to paint on a fakakta horse. I've done a lot for our family. I've done a lot for myself. I'm not going to do it." So here's my painting. That's right. Picasso, I'm not. And no, we don't get older. So here's a weird thing that started to happen, folks. Through all of these activities, through all my readings, through all my practices, a weird thing started to happen. I started to get better. And I wanted to share with you some of the techniques that helped me through my journey that continue to help me today in a speech that I've entitled Happiness for Lawyers Guaranteed, or Your Misery Back. And I say guaranteed because if you do the things that I'm going to share with you, it will increase your happiness levels. Studies show it, my experience dictates it, and so does common sense. But if you don't want to do it and you want to write it off as flaky, hokey BS, that's okay too. I'm not forcing it down your throat. All I'm asking for you is to keep an open mind, listen to what I have to share, and take what you like and leave the rest. But I do want to first address all the skeptics in the room. I was that guy. I still am. As a trial lawyer, I don't accept anything unless I somehow rip it up and tear it apart and analyze it. So for you skeptics who are saying, why do we give a rat's you know what about happiness? I don't want to talk about happiness. I just want to learn how to make more money. If I make more money, then I'll be happy. And don't get me started about how my staff should be happier. Let them do their damn jobs properly. That will make me more money, and then I'll be happier. For you folks, I have the following study to share with you that was published in the Harvard Business Review. It talked about the happiness benefits in the workplace. So if you're not doing it for your family or for yourself, do it for your business. Happy employees produced 37% greater sales, were 31% more productive, suffered 23% fewer fatigue symptoms, and were 300% more creative. So it just makes sense for lawyers, for non-lawyers, for people running for office, people who are not. Okay, so let's talk about happiness. Now, to set up the solution or the formula that I'd like to share with you, which hit me like a great Beatles song that only takes a few minutes to write, this concept hit me and I've been using it ever since. Let's set it up. First, when you're feeling bad, and I use bad just to replace not feeling in a way that you want to feel. When you're feeling unhappy, dis-ease, anxiety, any way that you don't want to feel, understand that that feeling was preceded by a thought. Thought, feeling, manifestation. First we have a thought, then we feel a certain way, and then we act or manifest. So the key I've learned is to try to control the thoughts. Everybody with me so far? So when you have a thought that doesn't serve you well, are you ready for the formula? I want you to think of one thing, and that thing is salads. That's right, salads. Really, Mark? Salads? That's what you got for us? That's it? Group of lawyers, high achievers, salads? Okay, stay with me. Salads is an acronym. Each letter stands for another step through the process that I encourage you to go through, that I go through on a daily basis, because you're never cured from the stinking thinking that constantly causes you to feel in a way that you do not wish to feel. So are you ready for the first ask? What I will ask of you on this journey for this hour that we're together is that you do the hand gestures, you participate in the way that I'm asking you to do it. It may feel uncomfortable, but if you don't want to remain stuck, then do it. So not if, but when you get your next thought that doesn't serve you well, stinking thinking as I call it, I want you to do the following. Ready? Stop. Everybody do that with me. Stop. Some of you are not doing it. You know who you are. You're the ones who will have the misery. There's no guarantees to happiness. I need you to stop. Do this gesture. Stop. Stop, because the first thoughts that you have to either your boss or to the judge or to your wife or to your kids is usually not the best thought to respond with. You're usually reacting. The goal is to learn how to respond. This is how we look when we're angry and frustrated. That's not the time to respond. So stop and take that adult time out. Once you've stopped, I want you to do what Ariel talked about. Take a deep breath. You can use her very unique technique, the Yamaha Shamalama Ding Dong technique that she talked about, which I thought was wonderful. Or just take a few deep breaths. And that will immediately change your psychology and put you in a better state. Also, after you stop and you take that deep breath, I want you to immediately think of who it is who's responsible for your happiness. I used to think it was whoever it was who was pissing me off. That person, if they would just act in a certain way, then they will make me feel happier. And I've changed that, and I'm a lot better because of it. When you're pointing one finger at someone, you got three pointing back at you. My license plate serves as a daily reminder of who is the sole person that I have to turn to every day for my happiness. Just you. I need that plate, because the minute I'm looking around trying to blame someone else for my unhappiness, I fail. Just you. And the third thing that I think about after I stop is, wait a second, I'm not happy right this second, but I wasn't always this way. I was born happy, and look how I've become. Now, for those who are saying, all right, I'm skeptical, I don't believe we were born happy. And by the way, I had one lawyer at a seminar, even though I said I'll have questions at the end, she raised her hand, she said, yeah, I don't believe you. I think we were born miserable, she said, and we spend our lifetime scrounging for an ounce of happiness. And I looked at her dead in the eyes and I said, you know, you may be right. That's what her ego needed to hear. I don't necessarily agree with that. For her, for you skeptics, for anyone who needs it, let me prove to you how we were born happy. Exhibit A, look at any toddler. As long as their basic needs are met, clean diaper, full belly, decent environment, they're going to be happy. Take a look. That was all of us before we became lawyers. No, that was all of us. I ask all of you, what the hell happened to us? What happened is we kept entertaining thoughts that didn't serve us well. We were filled with happiness and joy. And through our lifetime, we continued with this cycle, which I'm going to help you break, of entertaining thoughts that do not serve us well. Now, lest anyone thinks that I'm some guru, I need to qualify. I don't always follow what I preach. In fact, not too long ago, certainly well within my journey down the spiritual path, I did not take my own advice. I'll give you an example. This is Miguel Macias, who absolutely signs off with me using his image. In fact, all the images that you'll see, everybody's approved. Miguel Macias was charged with kidnapping a 17-year-old girl from it was down in Homestead, a party. He took her allegedly, took her to a remote location, brutally beat and raped her, and somehow she got free and then accused him of doing this. His parents came to see me and I wasn't interested in taking the case, but they continued to press and convinced me there was a chance he might be innocent. And the more they spoke, the more I thought, you know what? I'm not drinking the gullible here, but I think this guy might be innocent. They told me that he had tattoos all over his arms and his neck. And as you can see, if he was the one who did it, the alleged victim would have been able to see those things and report it to law enforcement. And they did not believe that she had described those tattoos. The other thing is there was text messages that they were showing me, which seemed to indicate he wasn't even at this party. So armed with this information, I took the case. I was very interested. And I was excited to call the prosecutor and share with her this information because my client by that point had been represented by the public defender. He had been in jail on no bond, on a no bond hold for over 30 days, thinking that he was going to get a life sentence for this life felony for a crime he didn't commit, although I wasn't sure. So I called the prosecutor and I thought we'd work together to be able to find justice. Instead, she told me what time it was. She literally told me what time it was. She said, do you know what time it is? I said, no, it's 5 minutes to 5. I don't work past 5. If you have anything you want to send to me, send it to me by email, whatever you want, and I'll look at it over the next few weeks. She was unbelievably dismissive. And instead of stopping, because I had thoughts that didn't serve me well, trust me, many, and I was feeling in a way that didn't feel right for me, instead of stopping like I'm telling all of you all to do, I reacted. Oh, did I react? I said some things to her in that conversation. Some words, you know, those words that come out of you when you stub your toe on your way to the bathroom in the middle of the night. Trust me, those words that caused me to have to make amends to her, not for what I said, but the manner in which I said it. She was unbelievably dismissive. And for the next 24 hours at least, I kept emailing her, calling her, trying to convince her to devote the time and energy to this case to show that this guy was innocent. She was dismissive. Instead, finally, I used my tools and I stopped. And I found out who her supervisor was. And I met with her supervisor. And she was wonderful. And she thought, wow, Mark, I think you got something here. It's interesting. She told me for the first time, did you know that they collected DNA? A DNA sample because the victim went to the rape treatment center? I said, oh my goodness, so we're gonna have DNA. She said, no, Mark, the lab is backed up. It'll take about 6 months. I begged and I pleaded and she said no numerous times until she finally gave in. And she said, as long as you don't tell your colleagues, based on what you're sharing with me, I think there's a chance that he might be innocent. She pulled him from the bottom of the DNA list, went to the top. Within days, this is what happened, folks. This is an actual headline. Prosecutors dropped charges against my client who was exonerated by the DNA. That's right. It was not my client. It came back to somebody else. Now, I don't blame the victim. She did the best she could. She went onto Facebook and literally looked at whose party it was, and then found someone who was friends with that person who looked like the person who had raped her. This is who raped her. This was the headline after they dropped charges. The guy on the right is Miguel Bustos, the one with the white shirt. That's who did it. That's who the DNA matched. My client, Miguel Macias, both named Miguel, on the left. Listen, they definitely look alike. I blame to this day the prosecutor, and that's the person who I should have stopped and then immediately went to her supervisor and not reacted the way that I did. So when you have thoughts that don't serve you well, let's recap. We what? We stop. Do it with me, folks. Stay with me here. We stop. Are you ready for the next letter, which is the A in salads? Here we go. The next letter is we arm ourselves. Here's what I need you to do. We arm ourselves. The gesture I'm making, in case you can't see me, is we're putting on, metaphorically, we're putting on a tool belt. A tool belt. We arm ourselves, not with a tool belt that has a screwdriver or a hammer, but we were all born with a spiritual tool belt. Tools that we use when we're not feeling well. In utero, some of us put our thumbs in our mouth to soothe us, to bring us peace. When we come out of our parents, we go to them. We use that tool. Mommy, daddy, he hit me, she hit me. I don't feel well. I got a tummy ache. Anytime we're feeling bad, we use those. Some of you drink a lot. Some of you drug a lot. There are a myriad of tools. Some are stronger choices than others. Some of you exercise. I'm not here to tell you what should be in your metaphoric, your spiritual tool belt. I'm here to tell you to make sure you're aware that you do already have a spiritual tool belt. Think of the things that you use and look to add to that tool belt with healthy alternatives. Here are the top 5 things that I personally use on a daily basis. And folks, I'm not preaching anything that I don't practice on a daily basis. Here are some of the tools that I use. Random acts of kindness. So now, when a judge doesn't rule my way or treats me poorly, or a prosecutor pisses me off, or somebody cuts me off in traffic, my first reaction after stopping is to look down at my tool belt and say, if I were to do a random act of kindness for anyone, pay someone's toll, show them how to get to the next courtroom that they want to go to if somebody's lost, when I'm shifting my focus to help other people, I'm reaching out myself, and it will immediately change my psychology. Random acts of kindness. Short gratitude list. Before I go to sleep, every single night, I pull out my cell phone. I go to the notes section. I write the date, and I write the top 5 things for which I'm most grateful. Studies show 3. If you just do 3, get started with just 3, that'll work too. But what I'm doing is I'm reliving the experience of what I'm grateful for. So I'll write down, I am so grateful to Ariel and Patrick and the ADR for giving me this opportunity to share my story and be of service. And I'll go through, and in that moment before I'm going to sleep, I'm reliving the experience. And it's making me feel wonderful instead of all the thoughts that don't serve me well, filling my head. Oh my God, what about this? Money problems. Oh, what's going to happen tomorrow? No. And then the second thing is, I am now in a more peaceful state, and I'm going to have a great night's sleep because of it. Third, the long gratitude list, same as the short, but you're not restricted to just 3 things at the end of the day. Anytime throughout the day, you're feeling dis-ease, you're feeling thoughts that don't serve you well, get out a piece of paper, get out the computer, get out your phone, and just start writing everything that you're grateful for. I mean, grateful that you got up. There's people, as we're speaking right now, who are dying because of COVID. There's people who will not get the precious breaths that Ariel encouraged us to take. There's so many things to be grateful for. You just keep writing. I assure you, as you're writing those things, it is impossible when you're focusing on gratitude, filling yourself with an attitude of gratitude, for you to be anything other than happy and joyous in that moment. Meditation. We could talk about meditation for hours. Go to the other ADR sponsored webinars, and I think that's probably a stronger choice for you. And I know down at UM, they're giving wonderful lectures there. I'm happy to help you with meditation, but a slice of cake at the end of the day for me. And finally, exercise, the natural release of endorphins. Those are just some of the many tools in our tool belt that are there, that are readily accessible to you to use to change your psychology. Okay, so let's recap salads. Whenever you're feeling in a way that you don't want to feel, we stop, we arm ourselves, and now the L, the first L in salads, the L in salads is we look. Looking is looking down at your tool belt and carefully selecting which is the right tool to be used at the time. Arming was simply putting on the belt, just knowing that you've got it. Looking is being discerning and selecting what is the right tool in that moment. I used to think, well, if I just made some more money, then that'll solve all my problems. And we all know, you don't need a Beatles song to tell you it, we all know that money does not equate to happiness. In fact, there's nothing wrong with money. Money can be wonderful. That's how I make donations. That's how I support my children and my family. But if money is the spiritual tool or the exclusive tool that you're using to find happiness, it's not going to work, because the goalpost is always going to be moved. You're always going to want more money. Lottery winners, they show an extreme spike in happiness only to be followed by immediate depression and misery. I'll take my chances, so bring on the numbers. But most of those people, that's what they deal with. It's not the key to happiness. For me, the key to happiness, always when I look at my tool belt, is to try to be of service. So here's an example of how I almost said no. It was a Monday. I was swamped. I got a call from this girl whose name is Violet Mendez, her father, Orlando Mendez. He said, my daughter was thrown off the middle school baseball team. Can you help us? I said, wait, baseball? He said, yes. I said, why was she thrown off? Because she's a girl. I said, what is this, the 1920s? They don't throw. He goes, no, that happened. And he gave me the no. I almost said no. I said, but hold on, this should take one phone call. Let me help this girl out. This isn't right. So I called the coach. He's like, I don't want her off the team. Who does? I said. Well, there's a mother who went around saying this girl should be on the girls' softball team. She doesn't belong on the boys' baseball team. That she's, quote, these are her words, a lesbian, a dyke, a freak of nature. She's a distraction because, you know, she had those girl parts that would distract the boys, and she belonged on the other team. The reality was she was taking time away from the time that her boy would play at second base. Why? Because Violet Mendez is extraordinary. She's ranked in the top 90 of all high school baseball players, and she's not even in high school. She throws a 73-mile-an-hour fastball, and she doesn't pitch because none of the boys on her team can catch that fast a ball. So I said, what's the official reason? Why are they saying that she's off the team? Because she didn't try out. I said to the coach, did she need to try out? He goes, no, she's been on the team the past 2 years. I gave her her uniform at the end of last season. Of course she doesn't have to try out. So I called the principal over and over again. The principal would not answer my call. She lawyered up. Big mistake. So I was dealing with the lawyers from the school board, school system, whatever I was dealing. And they told me she didn't submit her forms. I said, I'm sorry, what? I found out that was another issue. She had tried to give her forms to the coach. The coach said, no, to her and all the boys on the team, hold on to them. I'll get them later. So that was a ruse. That was BS. And ultimately, right before game time, we had to do this. We had to hold a press conference. And by the way, there's no spiritual tools to make what's on my face look any better there. That was a bet between me and my son. He said he'd donate to a charity. I said, I'll grow that hair on my face. Anyway, this is us right before game time, and she was not allowed to play until all the reporters started calling the lawyers. And this is literally me telling Violet right before the big game, as her teammates were taking the field, we just got clearance, you're allowed to play. To this day, Violet and I are dear friends, and her family and I stay in touch, all from me saying yes to being of service. And now I get to relive this experience, and it brings me happiness every time I think about it and I share it with others. So service is the key. Service is the rent that we pay for the space that we take up on earth. And my goal, my dharma, my purpose is to pay as much rent as I possibly can. Okay, to recap, when we have thoughts that don't serve us well, what do we do, folks? Do this with me. Ready? We stop. I'm talking to you. Do it. Do it, or you'll be miserable. Stop. We arm ourselves. We look at our tool belt, pull out the right one. And now the next A in salads is we act. Do this gesture. We act. Do it because it's fun. It'll help you remember it. We act. Now, I know what you're thinking, my fellow lawyers. When I talk about act under the umbrella of salads, I know what you're thinking right now. Ready? You're thinking about frogs. Yes? No? First time I'm off? Yeah, I know I'm off. Okay. Who's good at math? Any of you lawyers good at math? Okay, put your hands down. We don't need you. This is a very simple equation. Stay with me here. There's 3 frogs on a lily pad. How many? 3. 2 decide to jump off. How many are left? Most of you are erroneously saying 1. That's the trick. Let me repeat it again. 3 frogs on a lily pad. 2 merely decided to jump off. They just decided. They didn't jump off. All 3 are left. See, we do that as humans. We decide to do something. You know what? What Mark's saying is right. What Ariel was saying is right. I should meditate. I should work out more. I should read more books about happiness. I should. We wind up shoulding all over ourselves. The shift happens for me when I changed should to must. I must. When you say I must, there's no room to back out of it. So let's take some action, folks, and say must. So let's recap. We're going to move on to the most important letter. So we stop, we arm ourselves, we look, we act, and now D, we decide. Take your fingers, your pointers, and put them right up here on your temple. We decide. Well, what do we decide? We decide whether we want to be happy or not. Aristotle said, take charge of your thoughts. You can do what you will with them. From that, I get happiness is a decision. It truly is a decision. So Aristotle, how the heck do I take control of my thoughts? Well, let's all try to do it together because that's the key. We've got to go to the source of where we get the thoughts from, and that is our brain. It is the most complex machine on the planet. I want to talk wonderfully about the brain first before I take it down to Chinatown and let you know how it hasn't been serving you well. Your brain has been wonderful. It has been controlling your muscles. Thank you, brain. I can do this. We can all gesture. We can gesture because of our brain. It helps us do that. It also controls our organs. Since I've been speaking, have any of you told your heart to pump blood to the rest of your body? No. Thank you, brain, for that. What about your lungs? Those precious breaths that Ariel had us take. Did any of you have to tell your lungs to breathe? No, it's doing it because of your brain. Thank you so much, brain. And your brain literally saves your life. Look both ways before I cross the street. Don't touch the stove when it's hot. Thank you, brain. You save our life. Wait, I'm at the beach. Is that Flipper? Is that Jaws? My brain is going to tell me which one, and it'll help me get out of the water if I have to. So your brain does wonderful things, but all right, now I'm ready to start talking real about the brain in terms of how it doesn't serve you well. Anybody have that? I don't even have to say what that is. I know that you know what that is. I call that incessant thought, incessant chatter, stinking thinking. The average person has approximately 50,000 thoughts a day. A day. I thought there was something wrong with me. Lawyers have about double that because we've learned to bill for our thoughts. Goes over much better in a non-lawyer group. Now, do you know that 80% of the thoughts that we have on any given day are thoughts that don't serve us well? What most people, not me, but most people call bad thoughts. Thoughts that aren't really good for you. And then 90% of the thoughts that we have today are the same thoughts we're going to have tomorrow, are the same thoughts we had yesterday. So we, my fellow lawyers, are in a constant vicious cycle of entertaining thoughts that don't serve us well, and we repeat them over and over again. So the key is to somehow to change those thoughts. Understand that your brain continues to send you thoughts of fear. Fear is false evidence appearing real. Everything is either loving thoughts or they're fearful thoughts. Everything can be related right back to fear. False evidence appearing real because the things that you expect to happen usually don't. Better things usually happen. It's all worry and bother and anxiety. Your brain has been criticizing and comparing you. You're not as good as him. You're not as sharp as her. Oh, she's this, he's this. Enough already. You are perfectly imperfect the way that you are. If you were the same as him or you were exactly the same as her, we wouldn't need one of you. Your brain disciplines us. You're bad, you're wrong, so I'm going to punish you this way. Enough. It ends today if you wanted to. With salads, believe it or not, it ends today. So what I'm asking you to do is to name your brain. I know a lot of you skeptics just went, oh my God, he had me, but now I'm done. Trust me, you've got to try things to get it. I do this. I have named my brain. My brain is Biff. I have these conversations with my brain, not out loud, because there's a place for people who talk to their brain out loud. So I say to myself, hey, Biff, I know what you're doing by sending me all those thoughts that don't serve me well. I know what you're doing. And what I'll do is I'll identify what Biff is doing. I will laugh because every day he's trying to take me down to Chinatown and lift me up as well. But there's so many thoughts. Mark, don't give that speech to the lawyers. Come on, they don't need to hear it. They're not going to embrace it. It's not going to go over well. Thank you, Biff. I appreciate what you're doing. Could you send me others? So I picture these thoughts coming out like food on a conveyor belt, right? Or food on a buffet line. You take what you like and you leave the rest. Don't get upset that you're having thoughts that don't serve you well. You name your brain so you can have this reminder that your brain is not who you are. You're not your brain. And if your brain is just an organ, like your spleen, like your lungs, like your colon, in fact, your brain and your colon are similar in that they both produce crap. You are not your brain. You're not your thoughts. So what I want to do before I tell you about this experience that I had is when you have thoughts that don't serve you well, let them go or change up those thoughts by going through this process, by immediately picking one of these exercises, one of the tools that serves you well. So here was me at a mobile mart. How did I get to that mobile mart and why? I'm telling you folks that I had a speech that was coming up that I was going to give about happiness. And I said, you know what? You're a sham. You're a fraud. Mark, if you can't be happy in this moment, and I'll tell you why I wasn't happy, then you have no right to preach. So I said, I've got to use my tools. And I went through the salads method. And in my head, I said, okay, the problem is I've got to drive all the way to Fort Myers, 2 hours for depositions on a case where my client was accused of trafficking in gummy bears. And by gummy bears, I mean those infused with marijuana, and boy, was there a lot. And he thought it was like no big deal because in California, he did it when it was legal. But I mean, these things had THC. The prosecutor in Fort Myers said, you ain't in South Florida anymore. Your client's looking at prison time. I'm like, oh my goodness. So I was dreading the day that I'd have to drive to Fort Myers to take depositions and confront the 5 officers who think my client is the Tony Montana of the gummy bear world. And I thought this was a big joke. But again, since he's facing 30 years in prison, I had to take it seriously. But I didn't want to drive all the way there knowing that they were going to be cantankerous likely, and they weren't going to say, well, we arrested your client unlawfully. So my point was really just CYA, go out there and take the deposition symbolically. So what I did was I needed to be happy. So instead of going out there to take depositions, my thoughts were shifted to, no, I'm going out there to do an experiment. So for 2 hours, as I drove to Fort Myers, I came up with this experiment that led me to the mobile mart. And on the way there, I talked to friends and I said, all right, this is how I'm going to do it. I planned it all out. That 2 hours went by very quickly because I was planning an experiment. I changed my thoughts. And this is what I did. I went to the Fort Myers gas station right when I got off the expressway. I went to the candy section and I purchased 2 of the cheapest bags of gummy bears that I could find. I mean, they had dirt around the outside of these bags, 2 for $1.50. And I selected the perfect container. It was unmarked, it was open, and as each officer, who gave me their permission, by the way, rose their right hand, swore to tell the truth in front of the court reporter with the prosecutor sitting to their right, I slid the salad container towards them. This is the salad to go styrofoam container. I said, do you want a tasty treat? Figuring at a minimum they'd be indifferent, at a maximum they'd be pissed off, but I didn't care because I wasn't going to get any better plea offer from the prosecutor. I was going to be pleading guilty in front of the judge with my client, and we were just going to put our life in his hands. And so this was just symbolic. And wouldn't you know, the experiment began with this. That cop, the first cop, plunged his hand into the gummy bear container, and he started eating them. The court reporter, who I didn't ask to participate, said to him, do you understand the irony? Gummy bears, it being a gummy bear trafficking case? He looked over at her with this face that seemed to suggest, I don't know what irony means. We were laughing our asses off, and the second cop came in. He ate more than the first one. We said, this is insane. The court reporter looked at this second officer and said, sir, and I quote, do you understand that there's marijuana in these gummy bears? To which he responded, I swear, he said, the more the merrier. And he ate more of the gummy bears. Now, the third cop, he was ripped, like Arnold Schwarzenegger, ripped as can be. He said he doesn't eat any sugar. The fourth cop, I didn't ask the fourth cop. He was so cantankerous. His energy was horrible. I was afraid of him. I just wanted him out of the office. The fifth cop I was most concerned about. He was the Joe Friday of the bunch. He was, I figured, the most serious one. He was the arresting officer, the lead officer, the one who I thought would be the worst. He came in. He started eating them right away. We hung out afterwards. I took pictures. I said, I got to include this in my happiness speech. He was wonderful. Now, I didn't do this to get a better outcome for my client who you see featured here, who okayed me telling this story with this photograph. I didn't do it for that reason. I did it to see whether I can simply make myself happier. And boy, did I. We had a blast that day, and I got to tell everybody the story on the way back, and I keep getting to tell the story. So I took a dark situation, I turned it into a positive one. But what I also did inadvertently was the prosecutor, she loved me. She thought this was great. And when she objected in court, because she did, to my client getting anything other than prison time, she did it in such a way where she sent a message to the judge like, look, she's doing it, but she ain't really doing it. She doesn't really mean it. She could have told him about the number of other times that he did it that were noted in his phone that they found text messages of. She just restricted to this one case, and the judge gave my guy probation. This is him on his 30th birthday. He went back to California on probation. The ripple effects of you changing your thoughts and changing your actions to change how you feel, it works. Now you say, Mark, sure it works on something as trivial as taking depositions in Fort Myers, big deal. What about if it was something major? I don't know, like a pandemic, or let's say you were publicly shamed. Would this really work? And the answer is yes. It worked for someone that I truly care about. I want to share that story with you as I start to wrap up.
There was every reason for her to believe that repressing her identity was necessary, because fully 2 months after she went on TV to correct the record, Fox News was having this discussion.
Listen, hashtag worst aunt ever. But I will tell you that she did then come on to one of the media outlets and say that she was injured, obviously, and wanted to sue her homeowners association, but or homeowners insurance, and had to name him as the party and felt bad about it.
By the way, she fell because he was so excited to see her. He jumped up at her.
Auntie Jen, I love you. I love you.
What are you doing there? This is the worst aunt ever. But in all seriousness, she legally did the only thing that she could have done and feels great remorse about it. But the important thing here is she's the worst aunt ever. And Now, I'm not saying those television personalities are all terrible people. They just want to fill time more than they want to say things that are true. But at some point, it's incumbent on everyone to consider both context and consequences if you're going to pile on in a shaming. And I'm not saying that anything here is easy. For instance, did I just publicly shame that lawyer in the last clip? Yeah, I probably did. And honestly, I'm absolutely fine with that. Just as I'm fine with calling him a human popped collar, whose every facial expression says, I only wish Green Book had won more Oscars.
What? Now, I'm not exactly sure what he means, but I know that wasn't positive. And when my kids text me as I woke up that morning, Dad, all our friends saw you, oh my God, I had one of two thoughts. The first one was, holy cow, this is not a good thing. This is going to be horrible. But I went with number two. I changed my thoughts. I said, this is so cool. And I went and I put it out on social media, and I love it. So again, even in the worst case scenarios, you can change your thoughts to change how you feel and change how you show up and act. So let's finish with salads. The last S in salads, very briefly. When you're feeling thoughts, when you have thoughts that just aren't making you feel wonderful, you're feeling bad, you have anxiety, what you do is last S is you smile. You smile. You fake it till you make it, whatever it takes. So let's recap. Salads. What do? Everybody do this with me. We stop. We arm ourselves. We look. We act. Keep doing it. We decide. And the last S is we smile. We smile. That is salads. It's all in my book, Be Happy by Choice. I'm not pushing the book on you, but it does recap what I gave in this presentation, and people have found it to be a wonderful tool to help them. If you want to get the book or you want to contact me for any reason, I'm happy to be of service. If you know of another organization that would benefit from my material, I love to be of service. BeHappyByChoice.com. And I want to conclude with a couple of thoughts. Number one, I made some predictions. I made some serious predictions about your happiness levels, okay? I predicted that if you do what I say, you all will be 81% happier. Spikes in happiness that will increase your productivity, and those around you will be happier as a result. Problem is, I really suck at predictions. We're going to test that after we see if there's any questions. I also want to thank Patrick, Ariel, and ADR for giving me this opportunity. I am so grateful. I'll turn it back over briefly to Patrick, and we'll come back. And if there's no questions or there's few, we'll then get to my predictions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark. For those that are viewing this, you are able to ask questions through the GoToWebinar control panel. It should be below the tab that says webcam for you. You can type in a question. If you do that, I will see it and I can read it to Mark and see if we can get some answers for you. Again, I'd like to thank both Ariel and Mark. I hope everybody has enjoyed this presentation as much as I have. One takeaway I got out of this is that I learned that you can actually paint on a horse. Who would have known that?
That really was the message, Patrick, after all. Packaged around salads, but it is about painting on a horse, yes. And they enjoy it. Trigger told me he enjoyed what I painted on him. Yes.
But seriously, I think we all learned that Mark is very passionate about happiness, and we all can take a lot from his guidance, his spiritual path. I love the acronym salads, and I hope that everybody does actually try it. Again, what do you have to lose? You can always get your misery back.
Any questions?
So far, I don't see any questions.
Well, if I was that thorough, Patrick, then there wouldn't be any, right? Everybody understands it. I covered all the skepticism, and I think they get it, right?
I guess. Do you want to make your predictions?
Okay, so here are the predictions that I made just for you guys for today, and I'll need your participation. I made 3 random predictions in here. They're innocuous, just random predictions. If all 3 come true, then my main prediction, which is 81% spike in your happiness as a result of my presentation and you doing what I told you to do with salads, will come true. The problem is, again, I suck at predictions and likely I will not get all 3 correct. So the first thing I want to do is ask, and we'll see if the audience responds. Pick any 4-legged animal. Dog, cat, too easy. See if anyone could type in, Patrick, whatever comes up first. Any 4-legged animal. If they don't respond, then I'll ask you or Ariel to come back in and give me their just guess. But here is the prediction. I will pull it out. Did anybody respond? If they didn't, any 4-legged animal.
Going once. Going twice. No.
Okay. So Patrick, name any 4-legged animal. Again, dog, cat, too easy. We'll come up with something. Here we go. Ready? Go.
Reptiles count?
Any 4-legged animal.
All right, iguana.
Iguana. Well, Patrick, we are 1 for 1. I predicted you would say iguana. Perfect. Okay, we're 1 for 1. Ariel, if you want to come back in, you can. Second one, perfect. We'll ask you. Okay, unless anybody else can jump in. I need any letter A to Z. Any letter A to Z. Let's see if anybody responds quickly. Patrick, check if they don't. We'll go to Ariel.
Going once. Twice. Nope, it's showtime, Ariel.
Okay, Ariel, any letter A to Z.
Z.
Which one?
Z, the last one.
Z as in zebra. Ariel, this is unbelievable. I'm horrible with predictions, but we are 2 for 2. This is the Chinese symbol for Z.
Wow.
Yeah. Just trying. Okay, Patrick, we'll go back to you. This is, again, everyone's happiness 81% spike hinges upon what flows from your lips, okay? Where do you do your grocery shopping?
Publix.
Easy, too easy. I wouldn't do that as a prediction. Okay, you're in Publix. You're going down the cereal aisle, Patrick. You need to select a delicious, sugary, wonderful cereal that we're all going to enjoy. You're going to bring it back for me, Ariel, you, and all the people to enjoy. What's wonderful is you have a 50-cent coupon in your pocket. So you're going to get 50 cents off. How happy does that make you? I need you to tell us, for 81% happiness, everything's riding on this, what cereal are you getting for us?
Wow, this is a lot of pressure, Mark.
Yeah.
Honey Nut Cheerios.
Interesting choice. Interesting choice. Are you sure that's what you want to go with?
100%.
Well, I will tell you that it has been wonderful being with you all, and hopefully you'll get whatever spike you want. This is the barcode for Honey Nut Cheerios. It is the barcode for Cheerios. And I thank you, Patrick. I thank you all, and I hope that you all choose happiness. Take care.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
A couple concluding remarks. Thank you for such an awesome presentation to you both. In the event, for those that are watching, that you did not see the other presentations for the Health and Wellness series, remember there were 6 of them. They're on the screen for you now. If you weren't able to attend them live, you do have the opportunity to order them, the past presentations, online through the Florida Bar's CLE website. Please take advantage of that. There are some wonderful programs, as you can see. Finally, I would encourage all lawyers who are interested in mediation or want to become mediators to join the ADR section of the Florida Bar, as we have many CLE programs just as you've seen today, including our wonderful mentoring academies that are for both mediators and arbitrators. So that is all I have. I want to wrap up our first ever Health and Wellness series and thank everybody, and be well, stay well.